This video is on the hand wheel clutch on a sewing machine and how it works and how to adjust it. So the way a sewing machine works is when the sewing machine motor turns, the needle goes up and down, and when you engage the bobbin winder, the needle also goes up and down, but you don't really want it to when you're winding a bobbin. So what you do is you hold this outer wheel and you release this clutch and it loosens, and then the wheel turns, but the needle does not go up and down. And then when you tighten this back up, it tightens it up and it goes back to turning the needle up and down. And the way it does that is this is called a stop screw. And if you look kind of inside here, you can see that screw is going through. See it move, you can see the screw, and in the back side here, you can see the end of the screw protruding through the inside back here. So when you tighten it, this, like a screw, it tightens and goes in and tightens up against this wheel. And then when you loosen it, it gets loose, but it stops right there so that it doesn't come all the way off like a screw and come apart. And the way it stops is there's a washer in between this outer wheel and this inner wheel, and the washer has these little nodules, and when that screw hits that nodule, you can see a little glimmer of light in there where the light is reflecting off of it. It stops it. And then it goes around and tightens, and there are 3 nodules. So I'm going to take this out so you can see what it looks like. When I remove the screw, there's the screw, and you can see it's got the threads and then a little piece that goes through to the other side, like that. So that would stick out on the other side. So let's set that down. Then I'm going to loosen this hand wheel, and then this is what you don't want to happen. You don't want it to come out, because then this piece in here is loose and flopping around. So on the shaft of the machine, it has 2 notches in the shaft itself. You can see there's a notch here and a notch here. And inside this washer are 2 little things that go into those notches. So it can either go in this way. Now, these little things here, they don't go straight, they kind of point outward. Or in the case of this, darn it, I dropped it. In the case of this one, it points inward this way and not this way. So if you look at it really closely, you can see it kind of pokes out. So if you put this washer in this way, it goes in there like that, or you can flip it out and it also will hold, but it's much more precarious. So the way that you know which way to do it is essentially what you want is for this screw to operate in the range of this stop and this stop. When you tighten it, it has to stop and be fully tightened before it reaches that. Otherwise you can't tighten it. It prevents it from tightening. And it may go over here and it may go over here. We don't know which way it's going to go because it depends on this piece that's screwed in. So the way that I do it is I normally start with the little notches pointing outward, and it's really hard to keep it in place. So what I do is I put it in there, and then I turn the hand wheel so one of these stops, one of the 3 stops is pointing at 12 o'clock straight up. Then what I do to make sure that it doesn't fall out while I'm tightening the screw is I place something underneath it like this so that it's kind of tilted up. So gravity is going to hold it in place. So with it pointing straight up, I'm going to very carefully screw this back in. So I want to very carefully place it in the middle so it doesn't touch that washer, and I'm going to tighten it all the way, and then I'm going to tighten it. And you can see that it gets really tight, but and visualize that that notch that's pointing up the stop and the inside on that washer is here at 12 o'clock. So I've got it in the perfect spot. And then if I loosen it, you can see that it's fully loose. And then if you look through that hole where the needle is, see the stop come into view? We know that that's where the screw is going to hit it and prevent this from continuing to turn and getting loose and falling out. So I actually got lucky and got it the first time. If it wasn't that way, then what you would do is, if it was not right, you would just turn this in this direction here and do the same thing. Put it in very carefully so as you don't disturb the washer, and tighten this. Now this isn't going to work because you can see the screw hole. When I loosen it, the stop, see through the hole, you can see the stop comes into view behind it. So you wouldn't be able to loosen it enough for the clutch to release. So what we need to do is flip that around. Like this. And it's facing straight up and down. So we can visualize it in our mind when we put this thing back in. We very carefully set that in, tighten it, and now it tightens, and it's not at the 100% at the 12 o'clock. It's more like 11 o'clock, and when we loosen it, it loosens up plenty, but then gives plenty of room. There's the stop. So at this point, with that in place, we're going to put the screw in and tighten her up. So tighten it up, and now you can loosen it. Needle won't go up and down, and then when we tighten it, the needle does go up and down. So that's how it works.